Bill Dunn writes a weekly column for the Republican American, and I don't know if I told you, but he's written a book, Purge the Evil, that you could download by way of Kindle. Bill, good afternoon.
Okay. How you doing there, Dan? Nice to see you.
Great. Good to see you as well. That would make a great Christmas gift. You know what somebody could do if they're going to give a Kindle to somebody?
Right. You need some content on it.
You do.
Yeah.
And that would
exactly.
And it would be.
I like you were thinking.
Yeah, anything I can do to help you. So, how many pairs of shoes do you really have?
That was the truth. 27.
I read that column today, and I almost got up and checked my closet to count the number of pairs of shoes I have, and I said, I can't do it. I might come up with an answer that I don't want.
Well, I came up with an answer a lot more than I thought, and I figured, there's a couple of slippers there I never wear. There's some work boots downstairs, some old sneakers that I do wear to mow the lawn kind of thing, and it just kept adding up. But the idea for the column came, and the Republican American has a great feature every day on page 2, the little Today in History. And it's just whatever happened in history on that particular date. And I that's one of the first things I turned to. And about a month ago, there was an entry, and it said, on this date in 1945, the U.S. government announced the end of shoe rationing. And I thought, shoe rationing? What is that? I never heard of that. I looked it up online. And it turns out that during World War II, many important consumer products were rationed to help the war effort, including tires, sugar, meat, butter, and gasoline. And another product that was rationed was shoes. People were allowed to purchase no more than 3 pair of shoes per year. And the next day I mentioned this to a colleague at work, and she said, only 3 pairs of shoes per month? And I said, no, only 3 pairs per year. Then about a half hour later, after the paramedics revived her, she said softly, I need to leave work and go home. And I said, you got to go rest. Because after your fainting spell, she goes, no, I got to go shopping. I got to go to the mall and buy some shoes. That's the only thing that's going to make me feel better. And it is, I thought about, you measure our economy, our health, our economic output by how many pairs of shoes people buy every month,
or
every week.
The amount of soul the country has. I couldn't pass that up.
And you should have. Well, I kept doing a little more looking online, and I found a bunch of different surveys and polls and stuff, and it says that the average American man owns 24 different pairs of shoes, different articles of footwear, between slippers and sneakers and dress shoes and casual shoes and work boots, and it's on average is 24. But the average for the American woman is 49 different pairs of shoes. Oh, no, wait. New information has just come in. Make that 50 pairs. Wait, now it's 51 pairs and climbing. And back in the mid-1980s, I remember when Ferdinand Marcos, who was the president of the Philippines, him and his wife Imelda had to flee the country during a popular uprising. And I think Imelda said, the peasants are revolting, to which Ferdinand replied, you said it, they stink on ice. I got a little bonus question here. Now, you know the reference there? You know who I quoted with that they stink on ice? It's from a Mel Brooks movie.
Mel Brooks.
He played the King Louis.
I still don't.
History of the World, Part 1.
Right. History of the, okay.
He was the king,
yes.
And Harvey Korman was his, second in command, and Harvey Korman said, the peasants are revolting.
Great job.
You said it, they stink on ice.
But it's amazing before I even got to that part of the column, when I started reading it, and obviously I knew what it was going to be about, it hit me, Imelda Marcos. What, she had over 3,000 pairs of shoes or something?
Yeah, and right after they fled the country in the mid-'80s, they went into the palace, the presidential palace, and she had not just closets, I mean like the size of 3-car garages of shoes, shelves of shoes, and she had over 3,000 pair of shoes. And at the time, a lot of people said, boy, that's just the height of greed and indulgence. But I remember at the time, a lot of women said, boy, that looks pretty sharp.
Well,
they were kind of jealous.
And I remember a lot of guys saying to their wives or girlfriends as they went to buy yet another pair of shoes, who do you think you are, Imelda Marcos?
Yep.
And I mean, and that was used, yes.
Yeah, she has become the symbol.
The symbol. She's become the soul of the movement.
You had to do it again, huh? Well, when I got home, I said to my wife, I asked her how many pairs of shoes she owned, and she immediately said 8. I said, 8? That's not even close. Come on, go count. She said, my answer is 8, and I'm sticking to it. Then she said, why don't we count up a certain someone's collection of baseball hats? And I said, yep, you're right. You have 8 pairs of shoes.
That's the classic comeback. Anytime you bring up the shoe argument, all right, you want to start talking about shoes? Well, how many baseball hats, as you said? Or how many this? How many that? How many CDs do you have? Thank God you can download the music now. But there's always the comeback.
Yep. So, anyways, that was my column today. And I remember when I first started writing the column 12 years ago, every week I was in a panic. What am I going to write about? I need a topic. I ran out of everything I know. But it turns out, as I've been doing it year after year, I never run out of material.
Never.
And just like flipping to page 2 and seeing that this date in history, I was like, wow, there's a topic right there. Yeah. Do a little Google searching and playing around and thinking up some goofy stuff, and bang, got a column.
With the computer, it makes things and the internet a lot easier, though, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, fabulously so. It's amazing. You know, I'm as I'm writing and something pops into my head, and I go on, I confirm it. Go to Google, bing, bing, bing. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that was in 1937, or whatever. And people writing newspaper columns 20 years ago, they just either had to go to the library and spend a lot of time, or just make it up, like I would have done.
Actually, had 4,000 pages. Yeah. But that was a great column today. Now, you mentioned the Today in History feature, and they'll be listing on Friday the anniversary of Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be, I'm going to say 71
years.
71 years. And we had John Bonini, the executive director of the Warner Theater, in here earlier, and he was talking about perhaps bringing movies back to the Warner someday, because he said it was such a big part of Torrington going to the Warner Theater to watch a movie. And so he'd like to supplement all of the programming that the Warner has now, perhaps. I mean, it's just conversation now. But I mentioned to him, my mother would always enthrall our family, my 2 brothers and me, not my dad. But, you know, we'd sit around the dinner table and we'd talk, and particularly about this time of year. Mom, where were you when they announced that the country had been hit by Pearl Harbor? Mm-hmm. Because the story was that most people in this country didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was, let alone that it was a part of the United States.
I mean, it wasn't a state.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a territory, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was territory.
And back in those days, that was just like on a different planet. It was so far away.
So the point being, she would say, well, we were at the Warner. I was at the Warner with my girlfriends watching a movie, and the movie was interrupted, and somebody came out on stage and said that the United States had been attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor, and we were all wondering, where is Pearl Harbor? What is a Pearl Harbor? Et cetera, et cetera. And then she would enthrall us about the story and, what it was like during the war in Torrington, et cetera. I'm just wondering if you ever had conversations along those lines with your parents.
Yeah, I did. They both were born in 1930, and so they would have been 11. And I remember them saying they didn't really quite get what was going on, other than that their parents were really concerned. And then as the years went on, and their older brothers all were drafted or enlisted and ended up fighting, it was just such I can't even comprehend. Someone born in the 50s, like I am, right, and raised in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where we've had such prosperity and freedom. I can't even imagine having you born and raised for your first decade of your life in the Depression. Then World War II, and half the people you know are across the world getting shot at, and at home, all the sacrifice and rationing, and it's just mind-boggling to think that people just did it. And that's how we won the war, by people just sucking it up and doing what they had to do.
Well, it was, as Brokaw tabbed that generation, the greatest generation.
Sure.
Yeah. But you're right. The sacrifice, you've just gone through the Great Depression, and then you're at war. Now, granted, there are those who would analyze and say, well, one of the reasons we got out of the Great Depression, true, is it empowered our economy in order, obviously, to supply the war machine. It empowered our economy to pull the country out of the Great Depression. But what they won't tell you in the next breath was, after World War II, we went into a recession that was the worst since the Great Depression until now. So we were right back, when you think about it, right back in the fire. You have the Great Depression, you have World War II, and then we went through a very down period of a great recession after World War II. It really wasn't until the 50s where we had that prosperity, that dream of owning your own home and the suburbs and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and in many cases, people were in their 30s before they finally had a chance to really relax and enjoy life.
That's right. And the lifespan was shorter than it is today.
Sure.
Somewhat. But you're right.
Interesting.
The fact that they went through the Great Depression and then World War II is just something that we hope to never go through again.
Yeah. So now, what are they going to do with the Warner with the movies?
Well, he would like to do it. It's on one of his to-do lists.
About, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they ran some old movies in the Warner, and I saw Casablanca, like three or 4 years ago, and it ran it off a DVD because you see the markings on it. But sitting in that theater and watching that movie on a big screen for the first time ever, that was great. I mean, I didn't feel like I was in 1943, but it was close to it. What a great venue.
Do you remember that was obviously the last movie you saw at the Warner then?
That's the only one I've ever seen. Yeah.
Because I used to go, obviously, well, you're not from town originally, but me being from town, we used to go to the Warner all the time. And I used to go on a regular basis, and I watched the last movie I told John that I saw at the Warner was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Which is a great
on
movie.
its first release?
On its first release,
Would that come out in like 71 or something?
Yeah, sometime around then. But I also remember Torrington had 4 very active theaters.
No kidding.
And you had on East Main Street the Palace Theater. You had over the bridge, and it was destroyed by the flood, right?
55?
Yeah, 55 flood, right in the vicinity of where Domino's Pizza is going to be the new pizza joint, was the Alhambra. And you had in the North End, and it might have still been standing when you moved to town, the State Theater.
Yes, that was still there. Yeah.
And they were all flourishing. Although my mother told me what they would do at times in order to get people to come to the theater was have giveaways. They'd give away dishes. That was a big thing. Go to the movie, get a free dish.
Really?
Or a place setting of some sort. Oh, that's one. Well, you're going to need more than one. Come to our movie the next time. You'll get another place setting. That might be a collector's item someday.
We got a lot of dishes when I was a kid from green stamps and going to the gas station.
Yeah.